There's a wisdom of the serpent we need to have. There's an innocent of the dove we need to have. And you put them both together, you have a sheep that can navigate wolf waters. And when you get that sheep, you found God's man in the earth. I can promise you found God's woman in the earth. You found somebody to make a difference on the planet. You found somebody to make an impact. We all brag about being kingdom people. And a lot of us aren't using the wisdom of the snake, and we're not using the innocence of the dove. We're just using Scripture. And we got our theology and our eschatology right, but we don't have our practice down. You're talking about kingdom all day long. Show me that you're wise as a serpent, as harmless as a dove. I'll start listening to your version of the kingdom. So I get this a lot from theological armchair quarterbacks, man. Monday morning scholars that heard a sermon on Sunday want to clean it up, put 10 verses on top of it, start talking about the kingdom and eschatology. I go, listen, I'll listen to your kingdom talk if you're wise as a snake and harmless as a dove. But if all you got's 20 verses you went and read out of somebody's book, that's not the kingdom. That's philosophical theology. But in practice, you're a sheep walking around among wolves. I want to see if you've been getting snipped. And I want to see how you fight back. Because if you really understand what it means to be a sheep, your life's not about attack everything you disagree with. Your life's not about going out and proving everybody wrong, because that's not how sheep navigate wolves. Try that if you're a sheep. Try to go attack the wolf. See how that handles. See how that works out for you. We're not in attack mode. Philippians 2. Man, I gotta hurry. What was all that about? Hey man, there's something there. There's something there. Listen, I meant what I said a moment ago. I don't get up here and claim I can solve problems, but I have decided that I'm going to be honest enough to start asking a few questions that maybe you'll talk about in the car. And if we start talking about some stuff in the car and then maybe talk about it at home, maybe somebody bring it back in and say, what's the Lord think about this? We might get somewhere. Philippians chapter 2, verse 14. This is tough. Everybody ready for this? All right, 99 out of 100 aren't going to like this. In fact, none of us are going to like it. The one that says they like it's lying. Do all things without complaining and disputing. That's the 14th verse. Ooh, that's my power verse. That's my verse for living right there. Say, what's your favorite verse in the Bible? I've never in my life heard anybody say, you know what my favorite verse in the Bible is? Philippians chapter 2, verse 14. Do all things without complaining and without disputing. That's my power verse. That gets me through the day. It actually would. Hear me. It actually would help you get through the day. Sometimes we ought to pick verses like this. Put your hands to the plow. Do it without complaining and without disputing. What kind of a world might you live in if you navigated the wolf by moving forward without complaining, without disputing? Because I'm about to show you where this is going. Paul sets you up. He's great at that. He sets you up with this verse that nobody likes. I mean, who likes that? Complaining and disputing. We take pride in complaining and disputing. What do you suppress it? I want more of it. I want to complain. I don't like my job. I want to tell you how much I don't like my job. I don't like traffic. I can tell you how much I don't like traffic. Disputing, straight up arguing. We love it. We're going to find somebody to argue politics with. We're going to find somebody to argue medicine with. We're going to find somebody to argue theology with. It's just that we love it. We get off on it, man. We just get it's like a drug. That you may become blameless and harmless. Oh man. You know the word harmless, there's the word innocent. It's the innocent dove word. That you become blameless and harmless, children of God, without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. This was Paul's sheep in the midst of wolves verse. This is Paul going, do what you do without complaining and without grumbling, so that you as children of God can shine like lights in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation. Or as I like to say it, it sounds a lot like Jesus said it. Do what you do without grumbling and complaining. Do it with the wisdom of the serpent, because the serpent knows when to shut his mouth. Yeah. Do it with the innocence of the dove, and when you do, you will be as the children of God who shine forth like sheep in the midst of a bunch of predatory wolves. They look different, they move different, they talk different, they govern themselves, they orient themselves differently. And what might they do? They might shine, look at the last of this 15th verse, they might shine as lights in the world, 16, holding fast the word of life, so that I may rejoice in the day of Christ, that I've not run in vain or labored in vain. I'd like to think I haven't run in vain or labored in vain at a weekend in Wallaceburg, Canada.
Amen.
I'd like to think that I have not labored in vain at tossing seed into the ground. I'd like to think that I've just spoke to a bunch of sheep who are going to be released in a little bit to go out into a world full of wolves. And they will shine like lights because they will remember that they are the children of God. And being the children of God, they will govern and orient themselves as wise as a snake, but as harmless as a dove. They'll hold on to the sword handle, and most of the time they'll keep it sheathed, because great power and great responsibility are married and come together, and that's what God's children look like. They'll inherit the earth they live in because their meekness will shine forth like the sun, and everywhere they step their foot will be their possession, because they've learned how to navigate themselves in wolf waters. They've learned how to navigate themselves in a world that doesn't care anything for them and doesn't love them, but they've become a light in the midst of absolute stingent darkness. They're making a difference in their world, because when people look at them, it's not that they see someone they can idolize. It's not that they see someone to make a mentor out of. It's that they see someone who reminds them, even for a brief flashing moment, of what it might look like to see Jesus. He might be that kind. He might be that gentle. He might be that loving. He might be that forgiving. He might be that gracious. He might be that merciful. And if we could shine forth that on our street and on our school and in our homes and in our marriage and with our children and in our churches, we might make the world a little less terrible place. We might make a difference in a world that desperately needs sheep in the midst of wolves.